Hey, I'm Tony Kingston. I'm a business coach. My business is TK BusinessAdvisory. I'm very excited to be at the Online Prosperity Show. Basically, we're going to talk about how you as the business owner can scale, grow, be profitable, not work too much, and have the inner confidence to get the business to where you want it to be. Looking forward to it.
Now, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and this is the #1 place to get exclusive strategies plus real stories from guests who help you solve real-world business pain. And some of us are in business, so you might be experiencing crushing revenue, burnout, or just spinning wheels without the results. Our guest today, Tony Kingston, is here to give you a nugget or two from his wisdom. Now, Tony, welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you, Prosper. It's awesome. Very excited to be here, mate.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I should have actually started to say konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa, Prosper-san. Yes. How are you? I think we should do this one in English, though. I think it'd be better for the audience.
Absolutely. For those that are probably wanting to scroll past, no, you haven't approached a Japanese language lesson. Now, today's guest, Tony Kingston, is the founder of TK BusinessAdvisory and is here to share how he's helped business owners systemize, scale profits, and reclaim their freedom with clarity and care. And the reason why I was trying or attempting to speak in Japanese is because Tony once lived in Japan for 3 years and he still speaks fluent Japanese. And that's quite a twist for a Sydney lad. So I had to look up a few of the Japanese that I could. You should have seen me trying the best I could do.
You've done really well. Yeah, I was very impressed. Very impressed.
Absolutely. And obviously, we want that you keep watching this because by the end of this episode, I want you to start feeling like you've been a part of Tony's journey. And we are going to be walking with you through all the actionable tools that will help you, pretty much change the way you do business or charge how much you are worth and also grow courageously, even if your business feels stuck and unstable right now. Now, obviously, we've already hinted to the fact that you were in Japan, Tony, with your Japanese story. Tell us a little bit about how you got there and maybe if you thought, it was a whole different world than the world that you lived in here in Australia.
It was a completely different world. I was 20 years old, and a friend of mine's father used to recruit Australians to be caddies, golf caddies in Japanese golf courses. And I was very much into hotel world back then, and Japanese was the language to learn in the late 80s and early to mid 90s. And a local Holiday Inn hotel had built this 30-story tower, and they wanted some foreign front desk people, porters, foreign workers. So I put my hand up and said, I'd love to go. And literally, I think 6 weeks later, I was sitting there in a hotel restaurant with 10 Japanese managers staring at me, not speaking a word of English. And I was thinking, what have I done? Where have I landed? And I remember my first meal was grilled eel. And I was like, wow, I'm in Japan now. And it wasn't a big city. It was a smaller city. So no one spoke English. But I immersed myself in the local culture, the local people, and learned Japanese really quickly because I knew I had to. And it gave me resilience. It made me experience things outside my comfort zone, which I think everyone should do in their life and personally and professionally. And I did that very much over the first 6 months, big time. And I was among the happiest times of my life living in Japan. It was amazing. And this is back in the day when there were foreigners there, but it wasn't a huge foreign influence and a huge foreign invasion, if you like. So we were quite rare still. Like you walk in a lot of towns back then and people still look at you like we're aliens or where have they come from. So it was a really unique time. It was amazing, amazing time.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us there. Now, what this spells to me is you literally connected with people, not at a level of understanding each other, but at a human level. How important is this as a business lesson, especially in the world that we live in today with all this social media without actually speaking to people?
More and more. More and more with social media, AI, it's more about face-to-face, real personal connections. That's why you look online, how many networking groups are popping up, and people always want to get together face-to-face physically, because people are buying from people now more and more. So the personal connection, personally, is more crucial now than it ever has been. So I know from my experience growing my business, all of my clients have come from me meeting people and then meeting other people and being referred to. It's not a little bit from online. I've got a couple of clients from advertising online, but 99% of it has been from meeting people and developing personal connections. Because trust is such a big factor in a sales process, whether you're selling plumbing, a deck, building, business coaching, social media, the personal connection and trust is enormous now. So I think that's where one of my skills is. And that's why I learned from partly living in Japan that I had to connect with people I don't really have a lot in common with. But I did. And it sort of, it helped shape who I am today for sure.
Absolutely. And obviously with the Japanese, they're always hailed about their technology, the way they do things and things of that nature. What was your perceptive of them arriving, and half of the people couldn't even speak English, yet they had that much of an international dominance?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the way the Japanese look at their business, and I know you've probably heard the Kaizen theory, which is the 1% improvement that everyone buys into the company ethos and culture. I really like the way they develop their business cultures. That's something I'm working a lot with my clients, is that the culture of any business is crucial to success. You can have the most brilliant people working for you, but if the culture of that business isn't right, the business is not going to work. And I think that's where the Japanese got it right most of the time, not always, but most of the time. Companies like Toyota and so forth grew because of the culture they created. And I know the hotel I worked at, which was a very large hotel, would have had hundreds of staff. It was very systemised, organised. Everyone knew their roles. There was no crossover between jobs. Everyone was very understanding what their role was in the business, and that's why it worked so well. Funnily, my first business I opened was a sushi bar in Sydney when I was 29. So I used my Japanese knowledge to open my first business, which with my Israeli friend, believe it or not, back then we opened a sushi bar in a inner city part of Sydney. Employed Japanese chefs and learned a lot from them. They learned a lot from me as well. But so the Japanese experience influenced me for years afterwards. Years.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously you probably came back home and you're looking at, what is this pasta and potatoes thing? Let me get back to grilled eel that you were exposed to.
Exactly.
And pretty much after that, you went on and became a CEO of a hospitality sort of supply business. Could you maybe walk us through
that was later. That was 7-8 years ago. I became a CEO of a hospitality supply business. So I took that role on in 2018. So we grew from 50 businesses to about 150 customers in a couple of years. So I was responsible for sales and acquisition. And it was going really well. We were growing really well. We were becoming profitable. Unfortunately, we entered the big lockdowns in 2021, and 99% of our clients were closed for 100 days. So that put a bit of a break on my progress and the business's progress, and that's kind of what led me to being a business coach today. Really, but it's sort of that business was going really well, and it stopped for 3 months. And I thought, what am I going to do with my life now? And I spoke to a couple of people, and a very good friend of mine was working with a lovely business coach. So I spoke to her, and she said, all your experience in business, why don't you do what I do? And a little light bulb moment in my life, and I checked out the network, and as they say, the rest is history. And 3.5 years later, here I am.
Absolutely. And obviously having people around you, especially like you've mentioned, the friend, and also part of your journey has your wife helping you step into the unknown. But when you spoke to the coach, what is it that really clicked inside of you? Because coaching is a whole different game ball than, just, running some sort of a business.
Oh, completely.
Two
really main things. I like talking to people. I'm very comfortable with people. actually, let's make it 3. Actually, I really like helping people, right? So I like helping people. I like talking to people. And I've had such an extensive experience of running my own businesses. Some really great experiences where I've learned a lot of things to do, and some really awful experiences with businesses that didn't go well at times. And I've had the same struggles a lot of my clients have had. So I think I bring a wealth of knowledge of being in the trenches where the small business owner has been. And I'd love to bring that experience to my clients. And I can come to some big high-flying corporate business where they don't understand what small business is all about. So I bring a real deep knowledge of small business to the clients. So I think that's what resonated with me. She said, this is what we do. And I thought, I love helping people. I love talking to people. I love talking about business, but I like the experience I bring. So I've been through it all, from the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, lots of staff to no staff, to startups, to buying businesses. So I've covered a lot of aspects of small business, and I think it really helps my clients with the way we work together, for sure.
Absolutely. But there's one thing about crossing, I call it crossing the chasm, when you're leaving a steady job, reliable income, and everything else that comes along with it, and, stepping into the world of the unknown. What was that, transition like for you?
Look, it was a very, very intense conversation. Not intense, a very detailed conversation with my wife, because I was making a decent wage. Overall, it was a good role. It didn't challenge me a lot. I didn't feel very. I had autonomy in the role, but it didn't challenge me. It didn't fill me full of passion. I didn't wake up in the morning going, "Oh, here we go." I woke up going, "Okay, I'll do my job." And came Friday, it was all done. So I liked it. I didn't love it, and my wife said, "I prefer you to go and do something you love, and I think you'll really love this." Yes, the financial side was terrifying, because to leave a steady income to zero, it's a big leap. But we put away a bit of money, so I put a plan together and said, look, within 3 months I need to get to here, and then 6 months I budgeted what we need to do. But the thing I knew I'd enjoy it. I knew it was me. I knew it suited who I was, and I think it's really important you do what you love as much as if you can. And this was an opportunity for me to do something I love. And that's why my wife said, just do it, leave your job, we'll make it happen. And we did. So with her support and me just jumping down there and going, well, the cards will fall where they may. And they did. They worked out really well. The first few months was a bit scary because there was no money coming in. But then client acquisition started building quite quickly. And it's been great. It's been an amazing experience. I've loved, not every minute, but most of it I loved.
When the money is not coming in, and obviously the client acquisition is taking a bit of a while, if somebody just shows up and says, I'll pay you $100 for you to do, $100,000 worth of work, a lot of people will take that in just so that they can just have some sort of a transaction happening, just so they feel alive within their business. Now, you talk a lot about charging your worth or charging, your value. Could you maybe walk us through what that entails and how so many people get it wrong?
Yeah, look, I've been there as well. When I started my coaching business, I definitely, for the first few months to get my client acquisition up and running, I did discount a little bit, which didn't affect me financially, but a lot of business owners make the mistake of just quoting to get the job. Now, most business owners, and it's not being critical of anybody, don't really understand their numbers when they first start their business. I think if I get the work, it's the most important thing. But quoting just to get the work ends up that you work really, really hard for no money. And there's nothing more dispiriting than putting in a 60-hour week and then looking at your bank account going, hang on a second, I don't have any money left. So from as soon as you can when you start your own business, and it's not easy because it's a confidence thing, it's a mindset issue, you've got to charge what your business needs to be functional, to make money. You can't just undercut to get the job, because if it doesn't suit your business and the margins are all wrong, you're doing it for nothing. You're working all these hours for absolutely nothing. You may as well stay at home with your kids or your wife or your family or your friends than going out and working really hard and coming back with no money. So as soon as you can when you start a business, you've really got to work on the profitability and the margins in your business and charge accordingly. It's crucial. It is absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, maybe for yourself, it might have come by because you had already started a business. But for some people, they feel like I'm only just getting started. I might not have that much of a track record with my name listed to it. What sort
Sure.
of maybe advice, or maybe you can tell us the moment when you actually charged a premium and thought, you know what, I absolutely deserve this.
Yeah, look, it comes from confidence in what you do and how you present yourself. So selling a product is really easy, really easy. You can talk about what it does for you, how long it lasts. Selling yourself is a different ballgame, right? So there is a confidence thing, which takes time. But I learned after about 3 months that, yes, I'm making a difference. I am good at what I do. And charging what I should be charging, people respect you a little bit more if you charge what you should charge and go, okay, I'll give you 50% off. And they're like, hang on, why are you discounting yourself so quickly? It's not a good look for your business. So I know when you're starting out, you don't have a track record, but you're doing what you do because you're good at it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be going to that business. I'm assuming if you're a really terrible plumber or you don't know how to be a plumber, you're not going to go and open a plumbing business. If you're not a builder, why would you open a building business? So everyone's got their technical expertise, and that's why you do what you do. So you need to charge for it because people come to you because they don't know how to do it themselves. They need your help.
But Tony, somebody might be listening or watching to this and saying, "Oh, I didn't have experience with rich Japanese people, and maybe I was not exposed to all of these things." They still feel that, sort of maybe feel that inadequacy to them. What would you say to somebody like that?
I would say, as I was doing yesterday with an engineering team, doing some sales training and learning how to control the conversation and do sales in a proper way and how to conduct a meeting really well so that you're in control of it. Because at the end of the day, we come to people like you or people like me or to a builder, a plumber, an interior designer, because we don't know how to do those things. So you've got to change the mindset from selling to helping them. So what you're doing is actually helping someone improve their house, improve their social media presence, improve their business in my case. To try and change the mentality from selling to them to helping them, but do a little bit of practice. Have some scripts lined up for when you go and meet new clients, just to say you're prepared for each meeting and you don't go in smelling of desperation because you need the work, because that will never work, obviously. But go in being confident in what you have to sell and how you're going to help this client. And I think it's really important because sales doesn't come to everyone naturally, but you need to do a bit of sales training. Not extensive, not months and months and months, but a couple of little worksheets here and there, some good sales scripts, some systems to what you do and what you offer, and it really helps the conversion rate.
Now, I was just looking at some of your stuff. You've had clients that have actually had major growth. Like I was reading, Jonathan started taking holidays, which is what a lot of businesses can't even do. Mike is scaling to 6 team members. And, he's tripling sales and things like that. Now, what does this sort of do for you when they say thank you?
Oh, man, it's what it's all about for me. It honestly, I know everyone thinks sure it is, but it is. Nothing better than getting a text on a Friday night from a client saying, I've had the best week ever. We closed that deal. It just makes me feel, and look, money's all part of it, of course. We all live in society, which is expensive, but getting client results is still the best thing by far. And getting feedback from clients about how we've changed their life and helped them grow and Jonathan had 4.5 months holiday in 1 year, which is just remarkable. When I met him, he was working 70 hours a week and had no systems in place. And 2 years later, he takes 4.5 months off. So, yeah, it felt amazing. It feels fantastic. I love hearing those sort of things. And look, not every client is on all guns blazing, but I'd say 90% of my clients had record years this year, which is in a terrible economy, is pretty great results.
Absolutely. You see, I think maybe it's you've traveled to Japan and you maybe experience a whole different thing. But in Australia, there's this whole concept of, should be all right, mate. Things will even out and it will work out the way that it works out. So some people still maybe think that having a business coach is a bit of a luxury and maybe, things of that nature. What's one misconception about coaching that really needs debunking so that people can literally start seeing the income, the freedom that Jonathan had and the scale that Mike experienced?
Okay, well, the biggest myth I think is that we cost and there is a lot of business coaches. Some are really good, some aren't so good. So I'm not going to say we're all great. We're not. But I think the biggest myth for me is that I cost a lot of money. Now, I can talk to any of my clients. I can, I'm not going to show their profit loss on this, but I can show you all of them the money I've helped them bring to their own business. I haven't done it. I've helped them do it. I can talk about a builder of mine who's gone in 1 year from $400,000 of sales last year to $1.2 million this year. Now, that $800,000 of extra revenue pretty much pays for my fees, as you can imagine. So in our network, we're very good at quantifying how much we bring to the business for how much you pay us. So the biggest misconception is we cost too much. I think everyone needs help in business. No one does it alone. Jeff Bezos doesn't do it alone. He's got a board of very smart people that work with him. Every massive company, there's not one person doing it by themselves. It doesn't work like that. So I've got a business coach. I meet him every Monday morning for half an hour. We go through some goals, some targets, some problems, some achievements. I think it's a really important part of business. I had one for my business 10 years ago. Having someone else look inside what you're doing and seeing the things you don't see are really important.
Oh, absolutely, because fish don't see the water that they swim in, and it's only up until somebody at certain things. Now, there's a misconception also between sort of coaching and consulting, and with the way that you end up working with people, some people might not quite know what that distinction is. But where do you draw the line between coaching and consulting, and how does someone know which they need more of right now?
That's a great question. So generally consultants work with larger businesses, larger enterprises, and they're very specific in certain areas of the business. Whereas a coach, I don't tell clients what to do. What we do is I ask the right questions to make them think of the things they should be doing. So I'm not sitting there pointing fingers at them, telling them what to do. I'll guide them from time to time. But coaching is more about looking at the whole part of the business and trying to make the client understand what they should be working on when, and seeing them. So as a sporting analogy, they have their training they need to do. Coaches are the same thing. So we have homework things we need to do. We have certain training schedules we keep to. I think it's more accountability as well, which a lot of small business owners need in their business. So we don't tell clients what to do. We don't hold their hands. We don't do the work for them. I mean, in particular, sort of guide them through the process and make sure that they hit the targets we do, but by holding them accountable to what we plan. So that's the big difference. Consultants are really in there to tell you how to run your business. I'm not telling them how to run their business. I'm helping them run it better. You
see, also speaking of just the norm here in Australia, there's that whole tall poppy syndrome, where people, they become very successful. They just are afraid that, people around them will start seeing them wrong. Now, there was also a point where fear of success became real for you. Could you maybe tell us, about that invisible barrier and how you actually busted through that?
A lot of self-analysis and self-help and self-work and fear of success is endemic. Most small business owners have it. That's why they're small business owners, because they just can't see themselves with how many clients I've met going, I don't want to get too big. I don't want to get too big. It's like, well, I'm not asking you to have 100 staff, but it's about, I've got one client in particular, we just broke through that the other day. He had a real fear of making money from a childhood thing. We worked really hard on that. And I worked hard on myself for a few years. It debilitated one of my businesses, not having that confidence to see me running a big business and see me making lots of money. It's a long, slow process, but it's a confidence. It all comes down to confidence, as Prosper, as you would know. Any very successful business people have inner confidence, right? You don't get up there without having some confidence. And it takes time. It does take time, but it's a really key part of growing a successful business. Not having 100 staff, but having a really happy team, making good profit, having a good sales process is confidence.
Absolutely. So if somebody's watching this right now, Tony, and they're thinking, maybe I need to reach out to Tony, could you maybe walk us through just what it is that, you will help them with and how they can get started?
Yeah, generally it's a coffee, a Zoom, a catch up. It's a half hour, very casual. It's not structured really. It's more about if I'm a good fit for them and if they're a good fit for me as well, because it's not always a good fit for each other. And if there's some interest on both sides, then we move to what we call a boardroom session, where I send the client a sort of 9-question sheet. We call it a stock take sheet. some very basic questions about how long they've been going, what they're drawing out of the business, how many hours they're working, some things that are getting in the way of what they're doing. And I run them through a process of what we work on and how we work on it. And it's a very black and white system to show what I do and what we can achieve within their business. I can analyze pretty much in an hour the areas of their business really need to improve on, and we can do those things very quickly. So it's an amazingly well systemized process, that second meeting. Absolutely. And it's all free, of course. I don't charge for any of that.
Oh, great stuff. And where can people go on the internet to get started?
Yeah, they can just jump on my website, tonykingston.com.au, and send me book in a Calendly appointment by all means, or just shoot me an email, or all my details are on there. And I'll just give them a call, and we'll do a quick half-hour phone call or a Zoom. If they live locally, we can meet up for a coffee and go there. I'm not a very salesy sort of coach. I don't push anything on my clients. If it's a good fit and it feels right, great. If it doesn't, no harm done. We move on. So I'm not a pushy salesperson at all with my coach. I don't need to be. I just don't like that side of it. So yeah,
absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Obviously, get started. Now, Tony, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
And, your life story and your experience have so much for people to, grasp onto, because I viscerally believe in life. We're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. Part of your life in Japan, and then learned all those lessons. Now you're sending the elevator down for people to, learn from you. But you also did mention that, part of what, makes all of this real is the journey that you have to take within and really have an understanding of who you are and things of that nature. Now, you've taken the journey and it's clear, and obviously, you're now showing people the path. But if you could maybe whisper some advice to that 21-year-old who's eating that grilled eel, and doesn't even know what have I gotten myself into, what would you say about embracing risk and maybe finding purpose?
That's a great question, actually. Embracing risk. Look, we talk a lot in our coaching thing about comfort zone, right? So a lot of us sit in a comfort zone, it's same thing day to day. And I've always been quite good at jumping outside a comfort zone and trying new things and new experiences and meeting new people. And that's the only way, for me anyway, I think for all of us, is to really grow yourself and your business, is to do things. I've got one lovely client interior designer who this year promised herself she would do one thing outside the comfort zone every single day. It could be the smallest thing in the world, but the more you push yourself out of your day-to-day comfort, the more you're going to grow as a person, and then that will lead through to a much, much better business. So, comfort, get out of the comfort zone, try something new. Don't be afraid of change, because change scares a lot of people. Just don't be afraid of change. Change is a good thing.
Absolutely. And you don't want to wake up with, the scenario where COVID or another scenario like that happens and you realize, wait a minute, is that all there is? Now, Tony, you've brought us into your world. You've got us to experience what it's like to have somebody like you, by your side, and how easy it would be, to achieve that which we want, freedom and sleep, so to speak. Now, what's next? What are you working on that we can be excited on? That now that we're in.
Look, basically, my next project it helps people in Sydney. I conduct quarterly planning sessions every 90 days. We get together at the beautiful venue down here on the ocean at northern beaches of Sydney. We have about 35 local businesses in the room, and we do planning for 90 days. I've got an accountant coming in to do a talk about end-of-year tax and superannuation. So a focus for me over the next financial year, which obviously starts in a couple of weeks, is a lot more small group scenarios to get, because I'm finding I've got a small group of guys who are really enjoying feeding off other business owners and hearing other business owners talk about their experiences, because it's quite isolating running your own business, right? So I'm finding more and more I'm providing great value, getting a lot of people in the same room together. And it's not to make money for me. Of course it helps, but it's about them connecting, going, someone else is having the same stress I am. It's not just me. And you can see the relief on their faces when they hear experiences from other business owners. So that's a real focus for me, is to grow that community which I'm building at the moment.
Absolutely. And it really, embodies that whole concept. If you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. And
Bingo.
yeah.
Exactly.
Now, Tony, this has been incredibly powerful. And I thank you so much for
Awesome.
being
Pleasure.
up and
No problem at all.
giving us the real tools to stand in our own worth, and scale smartly and actually embrace growth. Because I can attest, so many people, when we're starting in business, we're usually afraid to charge what we're worth, usually afraid to ask, we're usually afraid to, because we fear rejection, or sometimes we actually fear the scale side of things because we're afraid of that success. And I think having somebody like yourself by their side is how people can actually have businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. So thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure.
Today. Now, for those that are watching right now, if Tony's message resonates, I think whether you're a tradie, a service provider, or you're just running a small business, go check out his coaching at TK BusinessAdvisory. I'll put the links in the show notes below so that you can, click through and see what's next. And it's just basically, how he's been helping others be, do, and have, like I've mentioned, a business that's profitable and enjoyable.
Be, do, and have.
Until next time,
all right.
Thank you enough for spending time with me today. Bye for now.